Welcome to Tossing Grenades at Windmills. Windmills.
Hi, and welcome to the Tossing Grenades at Windmills podcast. My name is TC Ricks. Recently, my microphone died, and Matt Franklin was kind enough to help me take care of it while I was gone. He did such a good job that I'm actually going to have him finish the rest of Grenademan versus the Zombies over the course of the next year. I'll be reading every other week, and look forward to speaking to you next week.
Chapter 7. Well, not literally today, more like 6 weeks from now, but the point was still pretty much the same. A large black pickup truck drove up. Everyone stopped working and stared. Internal security. Kevin whispered to Michelle, "What are they doing here?" Two very large men, one with black hair and one with blonde, got out of the truck at the same time. They walked toward the team. The taller one, the black one, looked at Michelle and said, "We need to talk to one of your team. Don't mean to disturb your work." Part of her resented them, but they were the equivalent of local law enforcement. Oscar had recruited them as con security, and it was one department that Molmo hadn't been able to touch. Rumor had it that Oscar had threatened to turn Molmo's car into a bomb if he so much as thought about trying to take over internal security. So, while Oscar might not be in town, his asshole presence was. Fortunately, he was an asshole on their side. "Who?" Michelle asked. One of them pointed toward Norman, one of their stronger workers. The security guard said, "Mr. Whitmore, if you'll come with us, please." Norman looked scared. "What did I do?" "You know what you did." "What did he do?" Kevin asked. "He told his family where to go when the zombies come," one of the agents said. "What's wrong with that? Are we some kind of totalitarian state now?" One of Kevin's workers said. "Are you a moron, kid? The government's looking for anyone preparing for the zombies and locking them up in camps. This guy put us all in danger." Norman said, "Is it so wrong to care about my family?" The guard looked at him and put a pair of handcuffs on him. "Nope, but caring about them at the expense of others is." Norman dragged his feet. "They'd never find out in time. They need to know now." Kevin said, "Let him go." At this point, Michelle had had it. "Shut up, Kevin. You ever actually watch those zombie movies? It's always some idiot like you or Norman who gets everyone killed. This isn't the Boston Tea Party. A small bit of security is not the same as locking everyone up in their houses and forbidding them their rights. Are you really that stupid?" Kevin looked at her in disgust and then walked away down the road. The council met in a bowling alley. It wasn't the nicest venue in town, but it had the advantage of very thick walls surrounding a wide open space that made it easy to reduce listening devices. Momo had the floor. "While I agree that locking people up makes tactical sense," he was saying, "quite frankly, I think in reality it's only going to make things worse. The people here in town aren't going to band together until the zombies come." Doc noticed that the tone Momo used heavily implied if the zombies came instead of when. "Well, if we'd used an island like I originally suggested..." Momo raised his hand in a silencing gesture and said, "We wouldn't be anywhere near as far along as we are now. While we would have had a lot more security on an island, we wouldn't have anywhere near the resources." The most interesting effort thus far had been a group of about 20 people or so who had gotten ordinations from the Church of the Expediency over the internet, and were taking shifts blessing all of the water in the town's reservoir to make it holy. Doc didn't think it was going to work, but it couldn't hurt. Probably. Cecil, the head of internal security and Oscar's proxy while he was away, nodded. "Momo is right, even though he doesn't know why." Momo looked rather annoyed, but waved for Cecil to keep speaking. "We've already spotted several federal agents moving around in here. They have quietly asked about Doc and some of the other original Inner Circle members, but they're not locking anyone up yet. The fact that we've chosen a town instead of the middle of nowhere actually makes us less of a target for them, because they figure we'll be easier to take down when the time comes." Doc laughed. "Do they know what we've got here?" "I don't think so, no," Cecil answered. "They especially don't know about the wall." Beads scratched the back of her head and spoke up. "Are you guys really sure we can get that thing up in a single day?" Kevin responded. It will be work, but the odds are pretty good that we'll be able to do just that. He glared at Molmo. Doc wondered what that was about, but didn't bother asking. Instead, he said, "What's done is done. I guess I should keep as low a profile as the other people who the government is looking for. We're getting pretty close to Z-Day, so I guess if we get locked up, we get locked up." Molmo said, "Look, Doc, you're the one who put all this together. Without you, I honestly don't know how long it would be before this place started to come apart. Not to mention the fact that when I go over your written account about this whole thing, you're a lot more important than that." Doc blinked. "What do you mean?" "I mean that I think that the four of you, Beads, Kevin, Oscar, and you, are the key to defeating Jarvie. You specifically bet him that he'd lose his powers if the two of you stay alive through this zombie apocalypse. Now, we don't know a lot about what he's planning, or what he can do, but he can't be all-powerful because otherwise he wouldn't bother waiting 6 months. There are rules even if we don't know what those rules might be." Cecil scratched his chin and said thoughtfully, "Maybe it'd be better to let the government keep you safe." Kevin laughed. "Do you really think the government is going to be better at doing something like that than we are?" Molmo stared at Kevin a moment and then slowly nodded. "The kid has a point. We are more willing to take your testimony at face value. The government is just sticking its head in the sand and militantly trying to pretend like nothing is wrong, and it's doing its best to make sure everyone else does the same." Cecil frowned. Doc knew he hated talking about politics. This was due in large part to the fact that he tended to disagree with most of the people here, liberal enough not to trust the lies that were told them, without only believing the official media, and conservative enough to pick up a gun to defend themselves. Of course, Doc didn't see it that way. Things weren't all black and white, and he'd never really wanted a gun. Beads had talked him into getting one for the shelter the first time, but he hadn't thought they'd actually need one. All of that had changed the night Jarvie had shown his power, though. Suddenly, owning a gun had become a lot more important. Kevin looked at Cecil. "So what are we going to do about Norman and the others that you've locked up?" Cecil said, "For now, they can stay locked up. I understand that we can't run this place like it was our own private little world, but we can't have them ignoring the rules, or there won't be rules any longer." Molmo said, "We should have some kind of trial." Kevin said, "Who made you judge, jury, and executioner?" Beads asked Kevin, "What has gotten into you lately? Who said anything about execution?" Kevin said, "You're all pigs. You're all fascists." He got up and stormed out. Doc looked at Beads. Cecil was about to go after him, but Doc stopped him. "He's scared. He's also really upset because of the fact that he didn't get to travel like we originally planned. I think we're going to see a lot more of that in days to come. Let him blow off some steam."
This has been the Tossing Grenades at Windmills podcast. I'm Thomas Ricks. Music by Melanie Ricks. Voices by Skip Huffman and Josie Bergen-Lawson. Copyright 2015, Red Anvil Amalgamated, LLC. All products available on Amazon.com and other markets.
To fight the forces of evil!